which is materials here. Materials. So I guess this one would be good. The slides. Okay. So can I just do this? Or do I need to go something else first?
You could copy that into another. You have more slides.
Into another way. Why don't I just go back to the? This will go back to the agenda, right?
Yeah, but then you'll lose that, so you have to open
Yeah,
it
you
in
need
multiple
to press
tabs.
the button again.
Okay. So you think what I should do is that's just that. So I need to go over to the. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should just do it from my own machine. It's so much easier.
You want me to do it for you?
Sure. Let's open
This one's the first one?
No, the first one is the first one.
Oh, okay.
They're in the right order. It's all done.
Would probably be helpful if somebody got on the camera.
They're all PDFs. Actually, that's another advantage of doing it from my machine is if I do PowerPoints, I can edit them during the meeting.
I thought that would be easier, but I guess not.
You want to do, otherwise you go on Babel page, can you go on Babel, back?
Oh, I got it. It's just gonna take a while. There's
Usually I get started earlier. And I have actually done this before, but
should be the last one. I have to do for all of these is hit full screen.
well, this is Monday. This is Tuesday, 13:30. Go ahead. Sorry. Go right ahead. Okay.
I should be ready to go.
Okay. Okay, so we don't actually have too much to do, and some people want to get out early, so I guess I'll go ahead really rapidly here. So I'm Donald Eastlake with Future Way. Russ White was unable to make this meeting. Martin, our area director, is sitting in front here. So do I want to do this? Okay, people are presumably aware of the note well, and the fact that if you want quality documents, you should review other documents, and if you do that, people will probably review your documents. So here's the proposed agenda. So I'll just do some update on status. We'll just briefly touch on the Yang model document. So that document, that draft, the Yang model document is in last call ending this meeting. So we'll see what, there haven't been any negative comments. There have been some positive comments on the list. Beer and Babel presentation by Sandy Zhang. And I just have a presentation on possible Babel futures, which I can go over. Well, what seems like things we might want to work on in the future, mostly for discussion on the mailing list. And certainly anybody has discussion here or ideas here, we can do that. Does anybody want any changes in this agenda? Additions, deletions, whatever. Okay. So we have two documents that have been approved by the IESG and are all green in the ballot. So there are two documents which have discussed this, still need to be resolved: the HMAC security document and the new base protocol document. There's two documents with publication requested: source specific and information model. As I said, Babel Yang model is in working group last call. There is also a working group draft on the round trip time extension, which was presented at the last IETF meeting. And there's a couple of related drafts, which is the HomeNet draft, which is waiting on the protocol draft, and Sandy's draft on beer Babel extensions. So we've really done pretty well on the milestones that are in the charter. Really the only one left is to submit the Yang document to the IESG, which perhaps we can do later today. Which at that point, there would be all the milestones in the current milestone list in the charter would be completed, which seems good. So that's it for these agenda and status slides. So I guess on the Yang model draft, the only question I really had was, currently there's an orange yin yang symbol, which means that the automated Yang checker isn't completely happy with it. Is that a problem, or can it, I mean, because there's certainly most people think it's in excellent condition, and we could just go ahead. Or you could there's come up front if you want, or go there, whichever way. You're closer to that microphone now.
So I guess what you're referring to is on data tracker,
Yeah.
it's saying that it's, yeah, well, there are some issues with the tools themselves that sometimes lead to that error, and is as simple as saying that one of the included files that I might have referred to is something it can't find. I can certainly take a look at it and send a note to the mailing list if need be to let everyone know. Maybe I see Martin has pulled up.
The IETF feature, which is not canonical.
Oh, okay. So I believe that that is a bug in the tool. The if feature requirement for it to be in a canonical order, although the ABNF grammar for the language says that that is the right order. For some reason, it's complaining. But anyway, as I said, I'll take a look at it and send a note to the mailing list
Okay.
confirming.
And that, if you're going to send a note, do you think it'll be like later today, or when you want to? Okay.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to actually do it in
Okay.
just a couple
So
of
is there any objection after that note is posted to declaring the draft to a past working group last call? It's been, I had a notice out for a while. Like I say, there's been no objections and some support. So hearing nothing, and then as soon as you post that note, or unless you say you don't want it to have that note, then I'll post a message saying it's past working group last call, and I can start working on the publication request to.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
And will you do that for information model?
Information model has been publication requested. There is a template out there, and it's currently requested as in that state, in the state of publication requested. Okay, beer for Babel. You want to present? Let's see. How do I get to? So I guess I want to go here and back to that. And give you. There's that if you want to control. Okay.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Sunny Zhang from ZTE. This presentation is for Beer in Babel. We have co-author Tony P. And I'm glad to present this draft again in Babel working group. So at first, let's see the motivation of this draft. Our intent is to use Babel protocol as beer underlay protocol to build a beer forwarding layer. Let me introduce beer technology here briefly. We know that beer is a new multicast technology, and it can build multicast forwarding layer without explicitly multicast distribution trees building, and it doesn't require any intermediate nodes to maintain any per-flow state. So it's a new multicast technology, and it can bring many advantages of multicast forwarding. And the beer split the network into 3 parts. And the first one is the core layer. It's called beer forwarding layer. And in this forwarding layer, the packet can be forwarded by multicast duplicate, and it can reach the edge router without the SG or MAGI in the intermediate network. And the packet can be encapsulated with the beer header. Now we support the MPLS function, Ethernet function, and IPv6 function is ongoing. But in order to build the beer forwarding layer, we must rely on some underlay protocol to build the forwarding. So we depend on the IGP protocol and the BGP protocol and the Babel too to build the routing underlay. So we use the extension of this routing protocol, like Babel, like IGP, to forward to carry the beer information and spread it into the networks, and all the nodes in the network can calculate the unicast routing and can also calculate the beer forwarding table. So the beer forwarding layer can be built from the IGP extension. And after the forwarding layer is built, the overlay is used to collect the multicast information about the ingress router and the egress router set for some specific multicast flow. So the ingress router, like this BFIR, can when the BFIR receives some specific multicast flow, it can encapsulate the packet with according to beer header and forward it into the network. Then the intermediate nodes can forward this packet and duplicate this packet according to the previous calculation result and push this packet to the edge routers. So the packet can be forwarded in this network and using beer multicast technology. So in some network, we know that we may only use Babel as a routing protocol. So if we'd like to deploy beer in these networks, we can't depend on OSPF extension, ISIS extension, or BGP extension. We can only rely on Babel extension. So we'd like to make some extensions in Babel protocol to build the beer forwarding layer. So it's our motivation. So it's a briefly summary of Babel protocol. We know that Babel is a distance vector routing protocol. It can be used in wired and wireless mesh networks. So it's a very good routing protocol, can be used in wireless network. It's our intent because it can extend the beer deployment in the wireless network. And we know that Babel has made some TLV extension to carry the additional information. So we think that Babel can also use a new sub-TLV to convey the beer information too. So we'd like to use beer extension to carry the beer parameter in the network. So it's an example of the implementation. We know that suppose that the node A is an ingress router of the network, and the other routers can also run the Babel protocol. And when Babel protocol is used to advertise the prefix of every node, the associated beer information, such as the subdomain and the BFID and some other information, can also be carried with the prefix advertisement. So when Babel protocol is running in the network, and as long as the prefix information has spread in the network, beer information can also be spread in this network. So when Babel protocol calculates the unicast route, it can also calculate the beer forwarding table. So beer forwarding layer can be built from this. MLD is an example of beer overlay protocol. So in this network, we suppose that the MLD is used to convey the edge routers information for some specific multicast flow. So for example, the node A can encapsulate the associated beer header into the multicast flow packet, and then forward it in the network. And all the node in this network can forward the packet correctly according to the beer forwarding table. And we know that because the beer capability in this network may be optional, so we define the mandatory bit of the extend subTLV to 0. If a router cannot recognize the subTLV, it must ignore the unknown subTLV, and it cannot processing the other key fields in this extension. It's the format of the Babel signaling. The signaling format is aligned with the definition in OSPF and SIS. So we also defined the same fields in the extension, but we may not use it in Babel 2 because such as the BAR bar and the IPA fields may not have special meaning in Babel protocol. So we just define it to align with advertisement with IGP protocol, but it may not be used for now. But maybe in some future we can find some use of this field. And also, as we define a sub-TLV of MPLS encapsulation, it's also keep aligned with advertisement in OSPF and SIS. And in the future, we will add the Ethernet encapsulation sub-TLV. It has only different from the type fields with the MPLS encapsulation sub-TLV. So it's some information about the beer underlay extension. The SIS support for beer has been published as FC 8401, and also the OSPF extension has been published, and the BGP extension is ongoing. And but we know that beer does not rely on all routers in our domain to performing the beer forwarding. So how to support tunnels that will allow us to tunnel beer across such routers which cannot support beer forwarding in Babel is for further study, because we know that beer is a distance vector protocol and not a SPF protocol. So when it calculates the routes, maybe we know that because it's only one hop away, so it may define some tunnels, or we use special method to build the tunnel to across the router which cannot support beer forwarding. And there is an implementation of the control plane of beer in Babel. Maybe you can find some something value in this link. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have comments or questions on this? Let's see. I guess not. Oh, good. Martin, go ahead.
Martin Vigorin. Donald, it's a question for you.
Sure.
If the working group was to work on that, would that be part of a rechartering effort, or do you think it fits in the charter?
It does fit in the charter because it's an optional thing in the charter. The charter says certain things have to be done and gives two optional things, which I actually go over that I mentioned that in my presentation. There's multicast and source-specific routing.
Okay.
So we've already done source-specific routing, but pretty much with the.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. I guess. Yeah, if anybody else hasn't signed the blue sheet, stick your hand up or something, we can get them to you. So I have a little presentation on possible futures. Let's see. Starts by going over what the work items are in our charter and their status. So green is basically a good color, indicates we've gotten there. So the applicability statement is explicitly called out in the charter, and that's past the IESG. There's the new proposed standard, the base protocol standard. There's the security needs need to be addressed, and we have two drafts that do that, one of which is fully approved, and one of which has a one discussed left, needs to be resolved. Manageability is listed there. We have the information model, which is in publication requested, and we have the Yang model, which hopefully later today will be in the past working group last call, and this, when I get the paperwork and stuff done, can be in publication requested. The charter says we should document implementation experience, but it explicitly says it doesn't need to be an RFC or a document or something like that. So we've basically been doing that by doing reports at meetings. There is not such a report at this meeting, but at last meeting there was a report on the implementation status. So we've sort of been doing that by reports to the meetings, which pretty much meets that item. There are two optional things in the existing charter. One was source-specific routing, and there's a draft on that, which is in publication requested state, and the other is multicast. So we haven't made nearly as much progress on multicast, but I think it's a more complicated topic, but we do have this beer Babel extensions draft, and it's something which we can, our charter to work on with our current charter as an optional item. So I came up with a couple of other things to list as possible work items. One would be type of service specific routing. So you have different routing for different types of service. There is an expired draft on that topic for our working group, which hasn't been worked on in a while, but that could be revived, and I think it's not really so straightforward. Another possibility I thought of is doing an 802.11 mesh. It's a Wi-Fi mesh path selection protocol. So Wi-Fi mesh assumes, of course, all the nodes in your Wi-Fi mesh have the same path selection protocol, i.e. routing protocol. They just happen to call it a path selection protocol. And there are provisions for having different ones, but I say any particular mesh, it has to be consistent. There's even a provision for vendor-specific path selection protocols. So we could, it's designed so that other organizations could make up path selection protocols and use their OUI. We'd use the IANA OUI to come up with our own designation. I found 802.11 to be somewhat receptive to this sort of thing. There was a draft done in the IETF, which is down at the bottom of this slide, called Secure Hybrid Wireless Mesh Protocol. And this draft was liaisoned to 802.11, I think. And 802.11 said, oh, sure. And so they allocated a code point in the 802.11 space for that. So you can identify the path selection protocol either by a single byte or by a OUI and and a sub-selector for a particular vendor. So the 802.11 has its own assigned number authority, and I just went and looked yesterday in there, and there's two values for path selector protocols. One is the basic one in the 802.11 standard, and the other is this secure hybrid wireless mesh protocol. So they allocated 0.2 a while ago, and it's still allocated. And I suspect that if we proposed a path selection protocol using Babel for 802.11 mesh, that they'd be happy to allocate a value 3 in their space, or we could use our own. And if there were some extension somehow required, it's possible they would do that. So I don't think there's much of an inter-standards development organization problem there, and it seems like the kind of thing that Babel should be good for, because you have obviously highly variable link metrics in an 802.11 mesh. So I have another slide. I was wondering if anybody in the room or remotely or whatever has any ideas for other possible work items they'd like to possible future or new work items they would like to have added to this list of stuff here. And if they don't want to speak up now, we can post to the list or whatever later. Just going ahead to I think the last slide is what should we be doing? I think our highest priority, obviously, for the short run, is to get the core set of all 4 drafts, including the base protocol draft, through the process and in the RFC editor's queue. But for the longer run, we should discuss rechartering and possible new work items, and we can do it right now, or on the list. I mean, we should do it on the list regardless, I believe, to see if there's people out there who are favoring additional work items to be added to our new charter. So, if anybody would like to comment on any of these charter items or possible new work items or whatever, or proposed any additional ones now? Yep.
Barbara Stark. I don't see Julia stepping up to the mic. And I know David is, because I just heard him at the microphone over 2 doors down. I think we may be just a little bit distracted in this session right now, and it might be
Okay.
better just to discuss this on the list.
Sounds reasonable to me. Like I say, I think we should, if nobody, regardless of whether people had things to say here, unless a lot of people jumped up and they all said there should be absolutely no new work. Since that doesn't seem to be happening, I'm pretty sure we should discuss it on the list, and perhaps work on a draft new charter language there.
Martin Vigorin as ID. I'm very happy if Babel finds new work to do. Just make sure that there is the energy to effectively bring it to completion.
That sounds very reasonable. Yeah, no, it has to be. Yep. Well, there's a Babel community working and implementing and so forth. So, okay. Well, is there any other business for the working group here? Looks like we may manage to have. I originally applied for a 1 hour for this slot. We got an hour and a half, but it looks like that maybe a half hour will do us, which is okay because I think people have things they'd like to do. So, last call for any additional comments, discussions, or topics here. Okay.
Since there seems to be plenty of time on the available on the agenda, Rod Van Meter. I'm new to Babel. I had never seen it before, so I just walked in to find out sort of a little bit about what Babel is doing and what's going on. I'm the chair of the proposed Quantum Internet Research Group, and one of the issues that we ultimately are dealing with is routing, and in fact, the the links are potentially not very stable and potentially relatively dynamic. So the idea of a routing protocol that works well with dynamic link costs is of particular interest to us. Fiber probably varies on the granularity on the order of an hour, but free space links or satellite links could be minutes or below. So I'm curious, just completely off the top of my head, whether or not Babel is something we should look at as a routing protocol for those kinds of networks.
I would think you should. That's certainly interesting.
And I think if you were to ask that question on the list, that Julius would probably respond to you. And he's like the person who knows the most. And it's just 6:30 in the morning for him. And my experience is he's not the best person at 6:30 in the morning.
Okay, thanks for that comment. That's an interesting topic. Yeah.
Hi, Ron Infeld. Donald, I was quickly going over your slides again, and did you miss the RTT draft?
No. I see. In this
future
presentation. Okay, so sorry. Yeah, it should be down here, I guess. It's not something explicitly called out in the current charter, and it's something that is already a working group draft. It seems like it's a kind of part of the protocol draft. I guess I considered it to kind of fall under the existing work. It should have been listed there. It is let's see here. Go back to the status of documents here. So that's down there. It is a working group draft. We could, for example, do a working group last call on it if people believe that draft isn't good enough shape for that. That would be a reasonable thing to do. It's in current work. Do you think that it is? Do you have an opinion on whether we should do a working group last call for that document?
I think we really need to ask, you're talking about
Yeah.
source specific?
No, the RTT extension. I thought that's what he asked about.
Oh, the RTG. Oh,
The round trip time extension.
I mean, I think that's another thing we probably need to take to the list.
Okay. So we can ask on the list what comments people have on that draft, and if there's no, whether they believe we should do a working group last call. Yep.
Yeah, Ron Infeld, I should go review it and I will.
Hmm?
I should go and review it.
Okay.
And
Excellent. Yes, if you could review it and post your comments, that would be great. Okay. Anything else from anybody? Okay. I should send the email, so I'll send I'll take a glance and we send out a declaration that the Yang model has passed working group last call a little bit later today. And I think with that concludes the Babel working group meeting for this time. So thanks for Barbara for taking minutes. And I'll see you on the list and at the next IETF meeting, I hope. Let's see. Is there anybody who hasn't signed the blue sheets? Okay. You're excused. You can go have fun. Whatever.
No, you're not excused, brother. You have to stay put on the board out.
Pull the minutes off the YouTube letter,
Okay.
but when I get around to it, I'll email them to you anyway.
Okay. If I get them pulled off, I'll email you so you don't have to. And